They lied about your laziness. You keep calling it laziness, but it's not. It's grief with nowhere to go. It's your nervous system locked in survival. It's the invisible weight of pretending to be okay. You look functional, you answer texts, you get things done, but inside, something's collapsing, quietly, constantly, and no one sees it because you don't let them. Because you've learned that breaking down makes people uncomfortable. So instead, you shut down, and then which said you shut down, not because you don't care, but because you care too much, and your body finally couldn't keep up. You're exhausted, not from work, but from being on all the time, from holding yourself together in places where falling apart was never allowed. You're tired in a way sleep doesn't touch, in a way that makes even the simplest task feel like a mountain. Your mind runs constantly, but your body can't follow. You forget things. You flake on plans. You scroll endlessly, not because you're distracted, but because it's the only space that doesn't demand anything from you. And then you shame yourself for it. You call yourself lazy, unmotivated, inconsistent, but deep down you know that's not the full story. You've just been managing too much for too long, too many suppressed emotions, too many moments where you wanted to cry but had to smile, too many times where you put others first because that's what you were taught was good. And now your system is frayed, overstimulated, numb, like you're walking through life with 100 invisible tabs open in your brain, and all of them are stuck. You still show up, but it costs you every day in ways people don't see because no one sees the toll it takes just to feel normal. You're not lazy, you're emotionally overloaded, and your nervous system is quietly begging for relief. Not motivation, not a productivity hack, not another self-help routine. Just a moment where you're allowed to not be everything for everyone. Just a breath, just a pause, just someone to say, hey, I see it, I see you, and it makes sense. Here's the thing you probably haven't said out loud. You don't actually hate discipline, or goals, or structure. You're not unmotivated. You're not lazy. You're scared. Scared that if you try, really try, you'll still end up in the same place. Disappointed, empty, ashamed. So you protect yourself by never going all the way in. You self-sabotage in small, quiet ways that look like forgetfulness or flakiness or procrastination. But underneath all of it is a very intelligent defense. If I don't give it my whole heart, then I won't have to feel the whole pain when it breaks. And that logic makes sense when you've been let down too many times. When you've watched yourself get excited about something, only to watch it unravel slowly or suddenly. So you don't get excited anymore? You lower the volume on your dreams. You pretend you don't care that much. But the truth is you do. You care so deeply it hurts. And that's why you shut down. You tell yourself you're just bad at routines or too inconsistent to be that person. But what's actually happening is that your body is rejecting more pressure, more expectation, more chances to feel like a failure. Because somewhere along the way, being good at something became dangerous. Being hopeful became naive. So now, every time you feel that little flicker of energy, that rare spark of, I want to try again, your brain sends the emergency brake. Not because it's broken, but because it remembers what it cost last time. And that's the problem no one sees. That's the weight you carry every day. Not laziness, not lack of ambition, but emotional armor, a nervous system that's working overtime to protect you from the same kind of hurt it hasn't finished healing from. So when you start something new and abandon it halfway, it's not because you're weak. It's because your body is trying to keep you safe, even if it means keeping you stuck. You're not inconsistent. You're traumatized by your own potential. Because somewhere in your story, trying your best didn't lead to belonging. It led to burnout, or betrayal, or silence. And so now staying small feels like safety. Numbness feels like relief. You've learned to live in survival mode so well, it's hard to even imagine what thriving would look like. It's not that you can't move forward. It's that no one ever taught you how to do it without betraying yourself, without bleeding for it, without performing. And that fear, that grief, that quiet belief that your best might never be enough, that's the real weight you're carrying. That's the thing that needs gentleness. Not discipline, not grind culture, just someone to name what's really going on. And maybe that's why you're here, not for answers, but for someone to finally say, I see what you've been carrying. And no, it was never laziness. It was protection. Beautiful, exhausting, misunderstood protection. Let's talk about what's really happening beneath the surface, because none of this starts with discipline. It starts with how your body and brain learn to survive. Imagine your nervous system like a fuse box. When the current of emotion becomes too strong, stress, shame, pressure, even hope, it trips. It shuts down certain circuits to protect you. That's not weakness. That's survival wiring. And it's doing exactly what it was designed to do: keep you from burning out completely. But here's the catch. It doesn't know the difference between emotional danger and physical danger. So when something reminds you of failure, rejection, being ignored, or even disappointing yourself, your system goes into defense mode. And that defense looks a lot like procrastination, or detachment, or zoning out. It's not that you don't care, it's that your body's trying to shield you from caring too much. Now add emotional memory into the picture. Emotional memory is the kind your body stores even when your brain forgets. So maybe you don't consciously think about that time your effort wasn't enough, or when you tried to be consistent and got mocked, or when you got everything you thought you wanted and still felt empty, but your body remembers. It remembers what happened after you pushed through, and it whispers, not again. That whisper shows up as exhaustion, fog, restlessness, self-doubt. You feel like you're losing to laziness, but really you're fighting ghosts. And then there's identity, the story you unconsciously live out. Alfred Adler talked about this, how we build our sense of self around the goals we think we need to reach in order to be worthy. For some, the goal is to be perfect. For others, it's to be invisible, or strong, or the fixer. Whatever it is, your identity becomes fused to these silent goals. So if being productive is tied to being valuable, then resting feels like failure. And if being emotionally available once led to heartbreak or abandonment, then even joy can feel dangerous. These aren't logical choices. They're emotional contracts you didn't know you signed. That's why sometimes you'll find yourself wanting to change, but the moment you start, it feels like panic. That's not resistance. That's your survival system trying to renegotiate your identity in real time. And it's hard. It's disorienting. It's like trying to run full speed while dragging weights that no one else can see. The world says just try harder, but your system says, I'm already trying not to fall apart. This is why forcing yourself rarely works long term, because you're not dealing with a time management issue. You're healing a relationship with safety, with identity, with being allowed to show up without burning out. So the next time you feel stuck, maybe pause and ask, not mine, what's wrong with me, why, but what is my body trying to protect me from right now? Because when you ask that, you stop fighting yourself. And that's when something softer can finally begin. You are a house with the lights on, but no one home. From the outside, everything looks fine. Warm, welcoming, lived in. People pass by and assume you're doing well. They wave, you wave back. You smile through the windows of conversation. Keep the porch light of your presence glowing. But inside, it's hollow. Not broken, just emptied from the inside out. Every room still has the furniture of who you used to be, your talents, your memories, your intentions. But the air feels heavier now, like grief has taken up residence in the walls. And what no one sees is that you've been running from fire to fire inside that house, quietly putting out emotional emergencies while pretending everything's normal on the outside. Sometimes the fires are big, panic, heartbreak, breakdown, but most days they're small and constant. The leaky faucet of overstimulation, the broken drawer of unresolved anger, the flickering light of self-doubt that keeps you up at night. And still, you host guests in the living room of your personality. You entertain with jokes. You offer comfort from the couch of empathy. But you never let anyone upstairs. Never let them see the rooms you haven't entered in years. The ones where burnout sleeps in your old bed, where childhood fears still scribble on the walls, where a younger version of you still waits to be told, it's okay, you can come out now. And you've lived like this for so long, you started believing it was normal. That being present meant performing. That being productive meant being in pain. That rest was only earned, and silence was only safe if it looked like strength. But what you've really become is a caretaker of your own emotional vacancy. And now, every time someone says you've changed, what they don't realize is that you didn't mean to. You just ran out of rooms to live in. You just learned to survive in the hallway, pacing between, I should be fine, and I don't know what's wrong with me. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are a house that has been too full of storms, and no one ever taught you how to rebuild, only how to hide the damage. So of course you're tired. So of course you stall, because being that house, being the one with all the lights on but nowhere to rest, isn't living. It's enduring. And eventually, even the strongest structures start to bend under the weight of being seen but not known. What if you were never lazy at all? What if the part of you that everyone mistook for apathy was actually just overwhelmed silence? The quiet that follows too many internal battles fought without recognition? You weren't resisting growth. You were resisting the pain that so often comes with it. You weren't afraid of effort. You were afraid that even your best effort wouldn't be enough again. And that fear, it didn't make you weak. It made you human. Because underneath every delay, every skipped task, every missed deadline or ghosted message, there was a small, soft voice saying, please, not one more failure, not one more shame spiral, not one more reminder that I'm not okay. You don't need more motivation. You don't need a stricter schedule. You don't need to rip yourself apart in the name of discipline. What you need is to gently understand that the part of you that shuts down, that forgets, that freezes, was never trying to hurt you. It was trying to protect you. It learned somewhere along the way that slowing down meant staying safe. That numbness was safer than disappointment. That withdrawal was safer than rejection. So maybe the goal isn't to become some highly productive version of yourself. Maybe the real goal is to feel safe enough in your own body to begin again. To know you can try without the threat of self-punishment. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to forgive the version of you that was just trying to cope. You weren't weak for not doing more. You were strong for surviving with what little you had left. And maybe now, for the first time, you can start to see that. Maybe now you can begin to soften. Because healing doesn't start with pressure. It starts with permission. The permission to stop blaming yourself, to stop labeling your pain as laziness, and to start honoring the wisdom in your burnout, the intelligence in your pauses, the courage it took just to make it this far. You're not broken, you're a masterpiece in progress, painted in pain, but still art. You are here, and that's already enough for today. You've taken in a lot, not just this video, but the truths behind it. The kind of truths that don't just land in your mind, but in your chest. The kind that stirs something old. Maybe you felt your throat tighten without knowing why. Maybe your body has slouched a little, like it's been carrying something invisible, and just needed this moment to rest. That's not weakness. That's your system saying thank you. Because for once, you're not pretending. For once, you're not pushing yourself to rise to the next expectation. For once, you're just sitting with what is. And what is okay. It's not fixed. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And that matters more than anything else right now. So many of us never get this space. We're taught to outrun our pain, to bury our burnout, to tape smiles over silence. We're taught that rest has to be earned, that softness is a luxury. And so we grow into people who are constantly tired but never allowed to slow down, who cry in private and apologize for being too much, who keep showing up even when every part of us is asking to be held, not handled. But you're here now, and that means something. Even if it doesn't feel like progress, even if your brain tries to tell you this isn't productive, this is the work, this quiet noticing, this breath, this unlearning. Let yourself be in this moment without reaching for the next one. Notice the way your shoulders have been clenched all day. Notice how fast your thoughts are spinning and how few of them are kind. Then try something radical. Don't fight them. Don't try to replace them with positive affirmations. Just listen. Not to fix, not to escape, but to finally meet yourself where you actually are. Right here. Not in your potential, not in your performance, but in your presence. Because presence is the first thing we lose when we start drowning in emotional overload. We go numb, we detach, we survive. But presence brings us home. And home doesn't have to be this glowing vision of healing and joy and perfect morning routines. Sometimes home is just a quiet moment where you remember you're allowed to take up space, where you sit with the mess and say, this is where I'm at, and it's okay that I'm here. Maybe nothing feels resolved. Maybe you're still hurting, still doubting, still stuck. But if you've made it this far, if you're still breathing through the discomfort instead of abandoning yourself in it, that's the work. That's the beginning. Healing doesn't always look like a breakthrough. Sometimes it looks like a pause, a slow exhale, a whisper that says, I don't have to rush this. So here's your permission. You don't need to change anything in this exact second. You don't need to prove that you understand. You don't need to promise that tomorrow will be better. All you need to do is be here, with your heartbeat, with your breath, with the knowing that even if your mind is racing, even if your past feels heavy, even if your future feels unclear, you are not doing it wrong. You are just in a season that demands softness, not solutions. Let yourself arrive in your own body, right now, not to perfect it, not to fix your mood, but to honor it. Let yourself feel the gravity of this moment, your willingness to listen to the truth beneath the noise. That takes courage. That takes strength no one will see, but you'll know it was there. And that knowing, that's your anchor. That's what keeps you steady when the world keeps spinning. So breathe, gently, not to calm down, but to remember you're alive. Breathe again, not because you should feel okay, but because you're allowed to feel whatever you feel. This is what being human looks like. Messy, tender, brilliant in the quietest ways. You're not behind, you're not failing, you're becoming. And even in this stillness, that's enough. That's more than enough. Which part of this felt like it was written for you? Not in a surface way, but in that quiet, personal way, where something inside you paused and whispered, that's me. Maybe it was the moment we talked about survival, or the house metaphor, or the nervous system that's been quietly protecting you, even from your own hope. Whatever it was, I hope you held that part gently, because it wasn't just information, it was recognition. And sometimes that's what we need most, not a solution, not another goal, just a mirror that doesn't judge us for being tired. If something here resonated, if it softened something hard, or named something you've been carrying without language, maybe save this. Maybe revisit it when the world gets loud again. Or maybe, just maybe, send it to someone else who's been calling themselves lazy when they're really just overwhelmed. We all have someone like that. And sometimes the kindest thing we can offer isn't advice, it's reflection. So before you go, take a moment. Breathe into the truth that you don't have to be more than you are to be worthy of care. You are already enough, already human, already healing in your own quiet way. And if all you do today is carry that knowing with you, then you've done something powerful. You've honored your own experience. And that, more than anything, is the beginning of peace.